Welcome to the Capitalist Stage podcast. We're here to help bring you advice and tips from seasoned pros and experts to help you improve your business. I'm Karl Barham with Transworld Business Advisors, and my co-host is Rico Figliolini with Mighty Rockets Digital Marketing and the publisher of the Petrie Corner magazine. Hey Rico, how you doing today?
Hey, Karl. Good. Beautiful day outside. It's great.
It is, it is. Why don't you tell everyone a little bit about our sponsors today?
Sure. Our lead sponsor is Hargrave Fiber. They're a fiber optics company that supplies some of the fastest internet that you'll see out there in the marketplace. They're a Southeast company that provides, here in the community, in Peachtree Corner specifically, high-end fiber for businesses, whether you're small or enterprise size, doesn't matter. They also provide the tools to do smart office with, to be able to be connected to your teleworking staff, to your business, doesn't matter which it is. And they'll create bundles and create packages for you to make you work the best you can in this COVID environment. So go check them out, hargravefiber.com or hargrave.com/business, and check their current promotion of a $1,000 Visa gift card for those that become qualified clients. So check them out. They're our sponsor.
Oh, thank you. Well, I know a lot of people are doing homeschooling, and so fiber optics is becoming a really important part of the landscape for everyone. But today, I am happy to bring our guest, Aysha Cooper, who is the owner of McKinley Caregiver Resource Center in Snellville, Georgia, in Gwinnett. We're here to talk a little bit about how businesses are navigating the pandemic in 2020. She works with the elderly and operate various resources and services to help support that community. And she's here to share a little bit about her background, her journey in that business, and hopefully share how other business owners can continue to evolve their business as things change. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Karl. How are you?
I'm doing fabulous. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and how you got into your business?
Okay, well, about almost 12 years ago, we launched an adult daycare center in Snellville, Georgia. And we have grown over the last 12 years, of course, to from 3 participants to almost 45 to 50 a day, no vans to 3 vans, 3 employees to 20 employees. And then the pandemic happened. So, but we have a love for our senior community and still want to be able to be there to provide care for them and their caregivers. But that was the nuts and bolts of our business since 2010.
Oh, so why don't you, for folks that may not be familiar, what are some of the services and things you provided for our senior citizens and elderly in the center?
Okay. Adult daycare centers are a day center for primarily seniors that can't stay safely in their home. But it's also providing peace of mind to their loved one caregiver, maybe an adult child. If it's an adult child, that adult child may still work. If it's a spouse, they may just need a couple of days where they can go run errands without their loved one with them. And so what we provide at the day center or provided at the day center was activities that were specific to stimulating them, especially if they had a cognitive impairment. Then we would provide activities, meals throughout the day, but we also had a medical oversight because we were RN supervised center.
Mm. So I know most people know that when the pandemic came around, it really impacted elderly community, and those were some of the most at risk population. When what did you think when you started hearing about COVID-19 back in probably late February or early March? Did you know it was going to have the impact it was going to have?
Oh no, I mean when we shut down Wednesday, March 18th, and I'll never forget it. It came so fast. And maybe it was slowly churning, and other people were able to um, be more on top of it than we were. But we knew people were still in crisis, and so we wanted to provide the care as long as we could. But once it was a state shutdown, then we had to make the choice to shut down. But we thought we would be back in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. So, what were the options to the family members of the caregivers once the center wasn't available and open? What were some of the things that people were having to do to continue to give care and support to their loved ones?
Well, to keep people safe, just as we have done, most people had to hibernate in their homes. And, they had the longest stay at home order, and it changed often. First it was 30 days away, and then all of a sudden it just kept getting pushed back. So these people are still at home and doing the best they can with their loved one.
So that raises an interesting question. I'm sure you keep in contact with others in the same industry, same business. Um, what were some of the things that people were doing, and what are things that people are doing now in their businesses that specialize in caring for the elderly?
Well, even you would have thought that people may have still needed services, but I do know that it impacted the home health industry as well. People didn't want individuals in their home, which is understandable. One thing that we did to pivot was, or at least just keep their loved one engaged, keep them um, stimulating with their loved one, mental stimulation, is we provided activity packets. We had to do that through our Facebook page, and we did send out an email to families. We had a pastor that's been coming to our center providing devotion since I had been open 6 months, and he came and blessed us and had been providing devotion with our participants for all of that time. So he also provided us a devotion to share with them, and that was just ways
Mhm.
that, to help people stay um, mentally healthy, hopeful, and engaging. But it was very limited of what we could do, especially not being able to go in people's homes.
Mm. So once you're in this situation and you can't, you're not allowed to reopen the center yet at that time. What were some of the things you were thinking of as the options? Walk us through some of the options that you might have considered, even if you didn't go down that path. And what are some of the options you've explored pursuing?
Well, to be honest, Carl, when it first happened, um, I was in my own space of mental clarity, finding mental clarity, letting go of 20 employees and almost 80 families that
Mm,
aren't don't have care right now. I mean, you can imagine the weight that someone has to carry with that,
mm,
and it being out of your control. So, I had to really just sit with that and it took me a couple of months before I could figure out what I really wanted to do or how we were going to pivot. But sometimes rest is the best place to get clarity.
mhm.
And so I got plenty of it for 2 months, whether it was, depression or just overwhelmed and, you know, a lot of fatigue, emotionally drained. But I woke up from that with a great perspective. I say, God gave me a good download of how to move forward.
You know, it's
Oh,
funny. I've heard this remark about how COVID has paused people's lives, right? How they become more in tune with their kids, with their family, because they're forced to be in the same area, same place, and even how some people look at their work and their job. And it gives them that forced retreat, like you just mentioned, where you're able to look at life and what you've been doing, where you would not have been able to do that before, right? I mean, would you
Correct.
have been able to just sit down and say, you know what, I need a 3 day weekend retreat and just see what I'm doing with this business? Would you have done that before? You
You
know,
said a 3 day or like 2 months? It was a 2 month
could be a
retreat.
month. I get what you're feeling.
with
Yes.
just Yeah, with just me and my son here doing digital learning. And you're right, it's interesting. A lot of people have you see posts, and it's unfortunate that people are going through this, and
Right.
it's not been well for them. For me, I just wanted to find the clarity and how to pivot in a positive way. And it's allowed me to do that, allowed me to be with my family, like you said, Rico.
Mm.
And I'll explain that with some of the services that we have launched. But those are the things that we can't ever get back. Those
Right.
moments.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, we I noticed a lot of small business owners when this started were not sure what to do because it came so fast. And we had introduced a bridge plan to people that just simply figure out your break even, figure out how to reduce expenses that make sense for most people. We wanted them to figure out how to increase income. And then
Mm.
that's kind of stabilizing the base. The part that folks started struggling with is one, what kind of conversation, we called it disclose, um, what kind of conversation you need to have with your employees because they
Hmm.
had questions, your clients and your customers, with your community. How do you stay engaged with them while no one knew how long you were going to be closed and what was going to happen? But then as people started to push their way out of this, it got back to, gee, get working, um, get
Hmm.
out there, start. Don't just sit in the turtle shell, but your competitors and other people are doing that, and the ones that started hustling, working, figuring out, so many new business models were being created, so many innovative ways to maintain their business, offer new services, find new clients. And the last part of the bridge plan, E, was talking about excelling and how do they, prep themselves to excel going into the future. Now, I know we've chatted a little bit. How do you see the industry changing that you're in, and what opportunities do you think that you can start moving into to help service that client base that you had, but in a different way with social distancing and mask and all these things that's creating these barriers?
Hmm. And to mention uh, the technical challenge with the population we serve. So
Yes,
we're still limited a little bit.
just a little hurt.
Uh, but it's providing care for them in a different way, and that's what we are doing. And so um when I woke up from my slumber, it was, I have a building, I have a commercial kitchen, I have vehicles, what can I do with it? And that's what we started working towards, was how can we use what we have, to your point about cash flow and cutting back in expenses and things like that. It's, you, even though you're reinventing the wheel, you still have to be cautious of the investment because of the limited cash flow. And so I had to make sure I was using what I had. And so that's what we did. And we started um, a home delivered meal service. First, that was just developed to provide meals for um, our previous families that were enrolled in the program. Because again, no one thought this would last that long. So we still had all of their belongings at our center. So that was our way of um, just seeing them and being able to say hello, take them their belongings, take them a meal, put our eyes on them. We tried to social distance as much as possible, but that's hard to do when you had a center full of love and hugs, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but we're moving forward and just looking at what is the need. And the need right now is caregivers are at home and they need support.
Are
They
you
don't get the respite care that they used to get anymore.
are you finding it
So,
easier?
I'm sorry.
Are you finding it easy enough to work with them to be able to do with the caregivers? You know, with the existing caregivers, I'm assuming.
Is it easy to work with them?
Right. Well, with the
Oh,
caregivers
yeah.
that you're working with right now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's easy to work with them. You know, they're at home. They don't mind that phone call.
Okay.
They're glad to have it.
So if I understand right, um, a caregiver would drop off their loved one at the center. They're able to go to work, they're able to do other things, and so on. And the center and your staff is able to fulfill different care needs that they might need. And so now that they're also the primary caregiver and they don't have that option, are you describing a system where you support the caregiver, um,
Yes.
arm them with the skills, experiences, tools to provide better care for their loved ones, while they're having to be the primaries to do that for the foreseeable future?
Ultimately, it will be a caregiver resource center where we have vetted resources that are available to them all in one place. Because right now it's very fragmented. Which could discourage anyone from trying to find the resources and the care that they need. So it's having a compiled list of care providers, vendors that want to support the caregiver. Within the center, though, we'll be able to provide some events, but we'll have a limited attendance with the virtual component because there's still a lot of people, you know, that aren't coming out, but we want them to still be able to participate. And what we will do is have events around self care, but also have experts speak to them on how to continue to care for themselves, a healthcare professional. And then there's some education that I have trained. One is powerful tools for caregivers, and the other is dealing with dementia. Both I was certified through the Rosalind Carter Institute because they do a great job at providing the education and the tools. So we'll just be able to bring that to them, and again, still have both components, an in person and a virtual option for that. So I want it to be that one place that you can go to and find your what's going to equip you as a caregiver to better take care of your loved one.
You know that's interesting because when my God bless them, they passed away. My in-laws lived with us, and my wife had to find services. She had to call a dozen different places in the state of Georgia, different services, different senior services and stuff. And there was not one place that she could pull these things together from. Um,
Hmm.
there were individuals that would say sometimes you could go here, go visit this website, but not someone that can actually do it for them or become the concierge, if you will, of senior care to be able to provide that service to her. She had to do all the legwork. And it was, I'm sure
Hmm.
for everyone, it's almost like reinventing it every single time. But it
Hmm.
sounds like you are able to not only provide some of the services, right, but also be able to pull it together for them, I would imagine.
You know, these are things that we did for the family caregiver that was dropping their loved one off anyway. You know, if they
Mm-hmm.
came in with questions or needed assistance with something, then it was our job to find it for them. Because this is a challenging moment, when you are taking care of a loved one with a cognitive or physical impairment, and either you're still working, you're not taking care of yourself. And so it's not that we don't want to take care of our senior, um, because we love our senior gems, but we do also understand the burden of caregiving. And we want people to relieve themselves of the guilt and take care of their own mental health.
I think you're highlighting something really, really important for folks to think of. Um, in the past year, there's been several business owners that I know that either had to sell their business or consider stepping away from it to care for a loved one. And when they didn't know what options were available to them, they thought the only thing they can do is to shut down their business or to sell it. And as I started learning about the services that were offered, just more people being aware that there are options there that people could leverage that could help them with that, help them get the answers. But I would remember some folks spending hours and days going to the wrong place for the wrong information, struggling through that. And I love this idea of a center where this information is happening. And sometimes people can plan ahead. If you know a family member is moving to town and has needs, you could start the training, you could start educating, you could start pulling those resources together, especially as people tend to leave the cold of the north and move down south more. That's something that happens, and it's hard to find good places where you can get that information and get that support and help. So I think you're tapping in. I'm curious though, as every other business, um, restaurants started Ubering, and different doctors are doing virtual appointments. How do you see technology playing a role in this? And how is there a specific thing you've adapted to what you used to do live or in person, but have shifted leveraging technology in some way?
Well, we will have to, of course, have the virtual component. So we're still working on that. I have a little bit of time. We are figuring things out still, but putting down our systems and foundations, and making sure we launch correctly. We're still here to help in the meantime, but yeah, we'll have to. And seeing our challenge will be is not just being able to provide the virtual component, but then ensuring that the person on the other end has access to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Knowing how to receive it. Well, I know there's a large scale experiment happening in the school system right now, where
Yes.
they're they're figuring out how to digitally learn and do things digitally. Just recently ordered one of these pads where kids could write and draw on, and it translate over to the computer. And that would normally be something you would think of as a luxury, but now I'm already seeing how the kids are learning digitally and starting to transform. So I'm a little scared of what the future is going to look like, because we're going to have
Mhm.
really fully digitally native kids that are learning once we get through this period of transition.
Well,
But
thank
I think,
goodness we had the platform, because if we didn't even have the platform to
yeah,
build off of, we would have been in real dire straits right now.
absolutely. But I think you're highlighting we've been focusing on the kids, and maybe we need to expand that focus to the elderly and what services can be delivered digitally, and how do we help them cross that gap more effectively.
Mhm.
So I could see people showing up and helping people navigate, virtual reality, augmented reality, possibly, and all sorts of cool technologies with new applications.
Yes. I do want, you said something interesting earlier about helping families prepare. And the one thing that we want to assist families with is being proactive versus reactive. A lot of times we were getting calls of in crisis mode at you, and then you're struggling to pull all these pieces together. So it is, how can we give them the tools to plan and prepare properly?
What would you advise someone if I had a family member that was, let's say, relocating to town, um, and what would be things that loved ones and children could do earlier to prepare, if they know that in the upcoming weeks or months or year they may have to care for a loved one? What are some of the suggestions you'd give folks?
Well, I think sometimes people have to make that decision and their house isn't ready for their parent.
Hmm.
So, I mean, one of the first questions is, how will mom or dad be able to navigate throughout the house if they are using a walking device? Um, but even before that, we had a lot of adult children, whether it's you don't have the choice or not, there still needs to be a certain level of sensitivity to it, especially when you're moving a parent from their town, their friends, their church, everything that they know, to a whole new environment. And so you have to be sensitive to their mental health and well-being. So it's, how can you get and keep them engaged and involved no matter what stage it is? So, if they are a fairly independent senior but just can't stay safely in their home out of town anymore, how can you keep them engaged in the community? That stimulation um, helps people with cognitive impairment. It
Hmm.
gives them meaning. So we need that. They don't want to just sit in someone's home. So it's researching, first of all, is your house equipped? But then what is in your community that can keep your parent or loved one involved
That
and
makes
giving
perfect
back?
that makes perfect sense. I like to think that, you know there are resources out there that could help guide people through this. I'm always curious. Have you come across any instances where you've seen people really do a great job of preparing that, and stepping through that? Are there is there a trigger or things that people might do and conversations they have with their parents sooner? How do they even begin that conversation?
Um, that's a tough one, Carl, because first of all, you find out how collective your siblings are and who's going to take the actual care, the financial burden. We always recommend having a family meeting to prior to, so that you can identify which siblings are willing to take on what. But you and I both know those are tough conversations to have with your parents, and they aren't the generation of just sharing.
Right. Yeah, you're
So I
right. I
think
mean,
more importantly is, what can we do now as we sit in our generation to make sure our kids don't have to go through what some of the adult children are going through now.
very, very good point. Well, I tell you, it's been fascinating listening to another business owner's journey through this, but I am really excited of seeing how you're figuring out new ways to serve the community and your clients and the families, the family members of those clients there. And as you continue evolving, I definitely want to keep in touch and just learn how it's coming along. But if folks wanted to just learn more about this and learn what you're doing, how can they reach out to you and learn more?
Well, we are still in our same place in Snellville. We sit directly behind the Lowe's off of Scenic Highway, so they can always find us there Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. But a phone call, I know people aren't just getting out. So they can also give us a phone call at 678 And then follow us on Facebook at McKinley GA.
Oh, fabulous! Do you have anything coming up that in the upcoming month, or any what do you have coming up for the community that people may participate in?
Well, well, we are going to kick off, and we will have this on our Facebook page. We're going to kick off in October, National Family History Day. So the whole month of October will be surrounded around family history and
Hmm.
learning about your family history and what you're leaving as a legacy. And then no, in November, it's National Caregivers Month, and that's when we will have our ribbon cutting. So they can find that information on the Gwinnett Chamber website.
Perfect, perfect. Well, I want to thank you, Aysha Cooper, owner of McKinley Caregiver Resource Center in Snellville, Georgia, right behind the Lowe's on Scenic Highway here in Gwinnett. And if you are interested in reaching out to her, you'll see some of the ways to contact her on the website and the show notes for today. So I just want to thank you for sharing your journey through this, and I think you could serve as an inspiration. If there was an industry that was hit hard by this,
Mm-hmm.
it was definitely yours. And taking the pause, which people need to do for themselves as well as to strategize, was one good tip. And then really figuring out different ways to serve the community, putting a plan in place and going out there and doing it. And that's what I love about small businesses. They're forced to be creative, to innovate quickly, fast, and they're able to do that. And that's why it helps drive our economy. So thank you for that and sharing today. Um, also want to thank our sponsor, Hargrave Fiber, who continues to sponsor the family of podcasts. Rico,
Yeah.
we're the podcast that we currently have going. What do we have coming up on those?
On the other podcast, well, the
Yep.
Ed Hour is in. We're looking for a guest right now to talk about COVID and the school opening. So we're going to be scheduling something in the next few weeks on that and how
Excellent.
that's working for private as well as public schools. And the Peachtree Corners Life, we have a few things in the works that we're going to be putting together. But I know that Capitalist Sage has several more. We're looking at former owner of Noble Finn, Cliff Bramble. We also have a podcast Friday morning, actually, that we're putting together with Link Dental Care and Doc Shin. That's going to talk about how the dental business took a hit pretty much during this COVID also, and how they had to deal with if you have a toothache, you really have to find the right dentist that can open up and
Yeah,
do the right job safely for you. So that's another
it is.
discussion. But yeah, a lot of good
We
stuff
have some
happening on
marketing
dental.
experts coming,
Yeah,
joining us too later on in September, as well as working on some guests to talk people about how to navigate their decisions around their businesses as COVID-19 is happening, and everything else. So we'll continue to do some of those really interesting things. The magazine, Rico.
magazine's out. I mean, it's been out for a week. We had a great cover, great story, hit 19,000 plus homes, their mailboxes. So happy to be able to get that out. We are working on the next issue, so nothing ever dies here, right? The deadline continues. We're putting out a pet issue for the next issue, but we're also so it's going to be Pets and Their People as a pullout in the magazine. We're also looking at great backyard retreats because everyone's sort of still stuck at home in a way. They may not be traveling, but maybe your backyard is the best place to be for that time when you're home. And we're looking at pulling together a feature story about getting several dozen people or more, almost 50 people sharing what they're thankful for this time of year. Even in this time of COVID-19, we're all thankful for our families, for the close friends that we have. But what else are you thankful for? And that's what we're trying to get, and we're going to curate all that together and publish that in the next issue as well. So it's going to be a good packed issue. A lot of stuff we're working on, and that'll be out the first week of October, which seems like a long time from now. March was a long time from now too. So I don't know. It's going fine, I think.
And since you're one of the hardest working people in Peachtree Corners, when you're not putting out a magazine and when you're not doing a podcast, what else? What do you spend your time doing?
Sure, Mighty Rockets, where we produce those podcasts. We have the magazine. We do a lot of social media, product videos, a variety of things online. So digital content, producing blog posts and all that. So pretty much we work with clients, see what they need, and then we put together a package that works for them. Because you know how it is. Not every client needs the same toolbox or the same tool. You don't need a hammer on everything. So we look at see what the client has and where we can help them to get further along in especially their online reach right now.
Well, I definitely recommend. I definitely recommend that people think about ways to market their business differently. We've moved to a virtual world, and all of these things are evolving. And getting your message out about the new things that you're doing in your business is really important. So figuring out how to do that and getting experts to help you with that is going to be really important going forward.
You are the man, though, that if someone's looking for an exit plan or someone's looking to get into a new business, I mean, you're the guy. So, why don't you tell everyone about how you work that also?
Transworld Business Advisors, we help people with finding good businesses to buy. We help people that are in an existing business looking how to sell it, the best way to do that. And more importantly, just help people planning through that. At the end of the day, the best way to for a business owner is to have a plan on how they want to exit, and we can help them walk them through that. We do valuations for people. We help them consult on their business, and you can reach us at www.tworld.com /Atlanta Peachtree. Our office is in Atlanta Tech Park, so you can stop by there and chat with us. And we continue to want to serve the business community by producing and sharing these Capitalist Sage podcasts with folks. So you can follow us on all of your streaming platforms, iTunes. You can follow us on Facebook, iHeartRadio. And the last thing I'll say for today is we're sitting here at the end of August. In a few months, there's a really important time coming up. And we just encourage everyone, register to vote. It may be a little bit different this year. So if you want to request absentee ballots, go on the Secretary of State website and request that. But the polling places will be open. Find out where that is. And this is a year where you should definitely participate in the political process and make your voice heard. This country is going through a lot right now, and every voice should be counted. And we need to help support people to be able to do that. So
and make sure that if you're going to be doing that mail-in ballot, you do it early. Don't wait until the week before, because they ain't going to be counted. So
that's right.
Do it early on. Do it now. Request that ballot now, and put it out as soon as possible.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us on the Capitalist Sage podcast. Everyone be safe and be blessed. Take care.
Take care.